My daughter-in-law opened my medicine cabinet without permission. She snapped my pills in half and said, "This way they last longer and we save money." That very same night, my heart began to fail. In the consultation room, the doctor looked staring at me and dropped a sentence that froze the room. "Ma'am, someone is altering your medication and that could have killed you." In that instant, my daughter-in-law went white as a sheet. My name is Sarah. I am 67 years old and I never imagined I would write these words. That afternoon in Dr. Miller's office, the air became so thick I could barely breathe. The fluorescent lights buzzed over our heads while my son, Robert, held my hand tightly, not yet understanding the magnitude of what we were about to hear. Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, was sitting in the back with that polite smile she had perfected over 3 years. The same smile she used when she called me sweetie with a sweet voice while taking away everything I loved. Dr. Miller is not one to sugarcoat the truth. She's been treating patients at General Hospital for 30 years and has that direct gaze that makes you feel she is seeing past your skin. When she opened my file, her eyebrows furrowed. She checked the blood results 1, 2, 3 times. Then she looked me in the eyes and asked something that split me in two. "Mrs. Sarah, does anyone else have access to your medications?" I did not understand the question. Or maybe I did not want to understand it. Robert did not either, but Vanessa. Vanessa changed. I saw how her face lost color, how her fingers clutched the edge of the plastic chair. And at that moment, I knew something terrible was about to come to light. "Your blood medication levels are dangerously irregular," the doctor continued with a firm voice, but loaded with concern. "According to your prescription, you should be taking 200 mg extended release pills, but the tests show you are receiving fragmented doses as if someone had split the pills." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert squeezed my hand harder. I felt the world tilting to one side, splitting the pills. My son asked, confused, "Why would someone do that?" The doctor leaned forward with hands clasped on the desk. "Because when an extended release pill is split, the mechanism that controls how the medicine is released into the body breaks. Instead of receiving the correct dose over 24 hours, the patient receives dangerous spikes, followed by sharp drops. For someone with cardiac arrhythmia like you, Mrs. Sarah, that can cause cardiac arrest." My mind flew back 3 weeks to that moment in my own bathroom in front of the stained mirror that I no longer cleaned because Vanessa said I wasted time on details. I had opened my pill bottle to take the morning dose and found something strange. The capsules were cut in half, neatly divided, as if someone had used a sharp knife. Vanessa entered the bathroom at that moment, drying her hands on a towel. She saw me observing the bottle with a frown and said with that casual voice she used for the most poisonous things, "Oh yeah, I split them. This way they last longer and we save money. Those pills cost $600 a month, sweetie. We cannot afford those luxuries." I remember I wanted to protest that I opened my mouth to tell her they were my pills bought with my pension for my sick heart. But then she put a hand on my shoulder with that soft pressure I had learned to recognize as a warning and added, "Besides, you know Robert and I are tight on cash. Every bit of help counts." I said nothing as always. That night, I took half a pill as she had arranged. At 3 in the morning, I woke up with my heart beating like an uncontrolled drum, sweating cold feeling like an invisible hand was squeezing my chest. Robert had to call the ambulance. And now, in this office that smells of disinfectant and fear, Dr. Miller was finishing putting together the puzzle I had been denying to see. "Ma'am, someone is altering your medication, and that could have killed you." All eyes turned to Vanessa. She who always had an answer for everything, who always knew how to manipulate every situation in her favor, stayed silent. White as the paper of the medical prescriptions the doctor held in her hands. And I, Sarah Roberts' widow, devoted mother and forgotten grandmother, finally understood something I should have realized a long time ago. My daughter-in-law did not just want my house, she wanted me to disappear. But what Vanessa did not know is that afternoon in that office, something inside me also split in half. And what came out of that crack was no longer the silent woman she knew. If you want to know how an older woman can go from victim to victor, subscribe so you can keep knowing stories like this. Stories of women who refused to die in silence. To understand how I arrived at that office with a broken heart and manipulated pills, I have to go back 3 years to that Sunday in October, when I opened the door of my house in the quiet suburbs and saw Robert standing on the threshold with 2 suitcases and a woman I had never seen smiling by his side. "Mom, this is Vanessa," my son said with that light in his eyes that only men in love have. "We got married 2 months ago. Sorry for not inviting you. It was something intimate. We need to stay with you just a couple of months while we save for a deposit on an apartment." A couple of months turned into 3 years, but I did not know that yet. My house is not big. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen, and living room sharing the same space. I bought it with my late husband, Henry, 30 years ago, when prices were still affordable for working people like us. He was a mechanic. I worked cleaning houses. Each brick of that construction cost us sweat and sacrifice. When Henry died 8 years ago of a sudden heart attack, I was left alone with my memories and a monthly pension of $800 that barely covered living expenses. Robert is my only son. I raised him with all the love a mother can give. Sometimes with too much love. I admit it now. After his father's death, he became more distant, visiting me less and less. When he appeared that Sunday with Vanessa, I felt God was returning my son to me. How foolish I was. Vanessa was 32 years old, 10 years younger than Robert. She was thin, tall, with hair dyed a blonde that did not look natural on her, but she wore with pride. She wore tight clothes and spoke with that fake posh accent that tries to sound refined. From the first moment her eyes scanned my house, as if she were calculating the value of everything. "How cozy, sweetie," she said while entering without waiting for an invitation. Her heels clicked on the tile floor I had just mopped. With a little modernization, this could look very good. I did not like that word, modernization. It sounded like erasing, like replacing, like everything of mine was useless. The first days were a perfect act. Vanessa helped me in the kitchen, asked me for Henry's recipes, called me "Dear Sweetie," with a honeyed voice. Robert worked double shifts at the auto parts factory where he was a supervisor. He left at 6 hours in the morning and returned at 9 at night. I thought, at least I would have female company at home, someone to drink coffee and chat with. How naive. The first sign came the second week. I was preparing a pot of beans when Vanessa entered the kitchen with a supermarket bag. She took out a shiny stainless steel pot and said casual as someone commenting on the weather, "Sweetie, your pots are very old. I bought this new one. It is better you use the modern ones. Yours have already given what they had to give." I looked at my clay pot, the same one my mother gave me when I got married. 40 years preparing beans in it. 40 years of flavor and memory cooked over low heat. "This one works fine," I said, trying to sound firm but without confronting. "Not anymore, Sarah," she replied, and I noticed she had stopped calling me sweetie. Besides, they take up a lot of space. "I'm going to store the old ones in a box in the backyard." She did not store them. She threw them away. 3 weeks later, I found my clay pots and my copper pans in the trash, broken accidentally when Vanessa was organizing. When I asked her, she hugged me with false tenderness. "Oh, sorry, sweetie. They slipped. But you already have the new ones right. It is better this way. Believe me." Robert saw nothing wrong. "Mom, she is trying to help. The house needed a little renovation. That is how the dismantling of my life began, piece by piece, memory by memory." A month later, Vanessa redesigned the living room. My lace curtains that Henry brought me from the countryside disappeared, replaced by gray and minimalist blinds. It is more modern, sweetie. Nobody uses lace anymore. That is for old ladies. The silver picture frame with our wedding photo was put away because it makes the living room look outdated. In its place, she hung an abstract painting of black lines she bought for $50 that seemed like framed trash to me. But the worst part, what truly broke me, was my mahogany rocking chair. It was a beautiful piece hand-carved with curved armrests and a high back. My father had it made especially as a wedding gift. For 40 years, I sat in it to darn socks to comfort Robert when he was a child, to mourn Henry after his death. That rocking chair knew all my secrets. It had absorbed all my tears. One Saturday, I returned from the market and it was not in its place by the window. I found Vanessa in the backyard with a rocking chair thrown among old scrap metal in trash bags. One of the armrests was splintered. "What are you doing?" I screamed. Something I rarely did. "Oh, that. It is just in the way, sweetie. It takes up too much space and is very old. I already bought a new sofa, minimalist. You are going to love it. That rocking chair was a gift from my father." "Oh, well, your father had very outdated tastes," she replied, wiping her hands on her jeans. "It is time you move on, Sarah. Clinging to the past is not healthy." I cried all night hugging that damaged rocking chair. Robert said nothing when I told him. He just sighed tiredly. "Mom, they are just furniture. Vanessa has good taste. Let her be. She knows about these things." There I began to understand that I had lost something more than a rocking chair. I had lost my son. The 2 months turned into 6, then a year. Every time I asked when they would move, Vanessa had an excuse. That apartments were too expensive, that Robert just had an unexpected expense, that they better save a little more. Meanwhile, my house stopped being mine, and I became a stranger in my own home. But I still had not seen anything yet because Vanessa not only wanted my house, she wanted me to cease to exist inside it. And little by little, with the patience of a snake, she was achieving it. After a year and a half of living together, I no longer recognized my own house. But the worst was not that. The worst was that I no longer recognized myself. I had become a shadow walking on tiptoes through the hallways, asking permission to use my own kitchen, apologizing for existing. And Vanessa knew it. She enjoyed it. Mornings were my moment of daily torture. I have always been an early riser since I worked cleaning houses. I have the habit of getting up at 6. I like to prepare myself a cinnamon coffee, as my grandmother taught me, with brown sugar, sit in the kitchen, and watch the sunrise through the window. It was my sacred moment, my only space of peace. Until Vanessa decided that moment belonged to her, too. One morning I went down to the kitchen and found her there in a pink satin robe and hair wrapped in a towel. She had moved all my household dishes. The coffee pot I used was stored in the highest cabinet out of my reach. In its place, there was a shiny Italian espresso machine. "Good morning, sweetie," she said, without turning to see me pressing buttons on her new machine. "I am going to start preparing breakfast early. Robert needs to eat well before work. You can eat breakfast later, right? After all, You do not have to go anywhere. I stood there barefoot on the cold floor, feeling how the words got stuck in my throat. You do not have to go anywhere. As if my life had no purpose, as if my days were empty and insignificant. I also eat breakfast early, I managed to say with a voice barely audible. Well, then you will have to wait, she replied, beating eggs in my frying pan. The kitchen is not big enough for both of us to be here getting in each other's way. Besides, I already reorganized everything. Now things are where they should be in my kitchen, where I cooked for 30 years, where I fed my husband and raised my son. Now things had to be where Vanessa decided. But I said nothing. I never said anything. I went up to my room with an empty stomach and an even emptier heart. From the window, I saw Robert leave for work, kissing Vanessa at the door. Neither of them looked towards my window. I was invisible. The unwritten rules multiplied every week. I could not watch TV in the living room because Vanessa was watching her gossip shows. I could not wash my clothes on Sunday because that was Vanessa's laundry day. I could not invite my cousin Leonore for coffee because the house is not up for visitors. The house. Which house? The one I paid for with 40 years of work. The one that has my name on the deed. But I did not even dare to say it out loud anymore. The most painful change came when Vanessa decided my bedroom was too big for a single person. One afternoon I returned from buying bread and groceries and found two men dismantling my double bed. The one where I slept with Henry for 28 years, where Robert was born, where I cried as a widow. What are you doing? I asked, with my heart beating against my ribs. Vanessa appeared in the doorway with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Oh, sweetie, good thing you are here. Look, Robert and I need more space. We are going to take the master bedroom. We set up a single bed for you in the service room. It is smaller, but enough for you. Right. After all, you are alone. The service room, the maid's room, a space of 6 by 9 ft, without a window with a naked bulb hanging from the ceiling. That is where I kept the brooms and old junk. That is where Vanessa considered I should sleep. This is my bedroom, I said, and my voice sounded broken. Pathetic. I slept here with my husband. Your husband died 8 years ago, Sarah Vanessa replied, and she used my name as if it were an insult. It is time you get over that. We are a young couple. We need privacy and space. You should understand. But Robert, I started to say Robert agrees. She interrupted me. In fact, it was his idea. He is tired of you pretending this house is still yours, when clearly it belongs to both of us now. We are your family now. Those words were like acid in an open wound. Robert, my son, wanted me to sleep in the service room, wanted to erase me from the spaces I built with his father. That night when he arrived from work, I waited for him in the living room. I needed to hear it from his mouth. I needed him to look me in the eyes and tell me it was true. Robert, do you want me to leave my room? He did not even look at me. He was tired with his coveralls stained with grease, shoulders slumped. Mom, do not start. Vanessa and I need our space. We are no longer newlyweds living in your house. This is temporary until we leave. But while we are here, we need to be comfortable. And me, I asked, and I hated how weak my voice sounded. Do I not need to be comfortable in my own house? There's something changed in his expression, a shadow of annoyance of being fed up. See, that is why Vanessa says you are difficult. You always play the victim. We are asking you for a temporary favor, and you turn it into a drama. You know what Mom grew up. You are no longer the queen of this house. I froze. My son. The boy I rocked when he cried at night. the teenager I defended from bullies at school. The man I supported when he lost his first job just told me to grow up, that I was not the queen of my own house. I moved to the service room that same night alone in the dark, lying on a single bed that smelled of dampness. I heard through the walls how Vanessa and Robert laughed in my bedroom in my new bed that they had bought without asking me. And there in that room where I kept the brooms, I began to understand something terrible. Vanessa had not invaded my house out of necessity. She had done it for conquest, and Robert was not her victim. He was her accomplice. But the worst was yet to come. Because when Vanessa finished taking my space, she decided it was time to take my dignity too. And for that, she needed me to disappear a little every day until finally I ceased to exist completely. The first day of every month, I went to the bank to collect my pension, $1,800 that the government gave me for the years I worked cleaning offices and other people's houses. It was not much, but it was mine. It covered my medicines, my food, my personal expenses. It was my independence. The only thing I had left until Vanessa decided that money also belonged to her. It was a Tuesday in February. I remember the sticky heat that was already announcing spring. I had just returned from the bank with my envelope of cash when Vanessa intercepted me in the living room. She had a folder in her hands, and that smile I had already learned to fear. "Sweetie, we need to talk about money," she said, sitting on the sofa she had bought to replace my old couch. She patted the cushion next to her like someone calling a dog. "Sit down." I sat down, hugging my purse against my chest, as if that could protect me from what was coming. "Look, I have been doing the math." She opened the folder and took out a sheet full of numbers. "You live here. You use electricity, water, gas. You eat what we buy. It is fair that you contribute, right? But I buy my own things," I said, feeling the floor move under my feet. "I pay for my medicines. I buy my food." "Oh, Sarah, please." She interrupted me, and her voice lost all feigned sweetness. "Your food. You eat what I cook. You use my gas. You dirty the dishes I wash. The electric bill last month came to $300. Do you know why? Because you spend all day with the fan on in that little room where you sleep. $300. I knew it was a lie. Our electric bill had never passed $150, even in the hottest months. But Vanessa had the paper in her hand, the printed numbers, the sure voice of someone who knows she has the power. "Besides, there is the water." She continued, pointing to another line on her invented list. "You shower every day, you wash your clothes, and then there is the food. I calculate you eat about $200 a month of what we buy Vanessa. I buy my own bread, my milk crumbs." She exploded. And there I saw the real woman behind the mask. "You buy pure crumbs and want us to support you as if you were a queen. Well, it is over, Sarah. Either you pay your share or look for somewhere else to live." The silence that followed was like a punch in the stomach. Look for somewhere else to live in my own house. In the house, Henry and I built brick by brick. How much I asked, and I hated myself for sounding so weak. "Half of your pension," she said, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. $900. It is what is fair. With $900 from my 1-800, I would have $900 left. My heart medicine costs $600. That left $300 for transport for any emergency. It was impossible. It was suffocating. It was robbery. But I looked at those cold and calculating eyes, and I knew that if I refused, Vanessa would find a way to make my life even more miserable, or worse. She would convince Robert that I was a burden they should get rid of. "Okay," I whispered, and I felt something inside me break definitely. Vanessa smiled, satisfied like a cat with a trapped mouse. "I knew you would understand. From now on, every first of the month you give me your money. I will manage everything. Don't worry, manage. What a pretty word to say. I will control every last dollar that belongs to you. That month, I handed over my envelope. The next one, too, and the next. Meanwhile, I watched how Vanessa bought new clothes at the mall, how she got her nails done every week at the salon for $50 a session, how she ordered delivery food from expensive restaurants because she was too tired to cook, all with the money I handed her as tribute for existing in my own house. But the biggest humiliation did not come from the numbers. It came from the words. It was a Saturday afternoon. Vanessa had invited 3 friends to lunch. I was in my little room reading an old magazine when I heard their voices in the living room. They spoke loudly, laughing scandalously. Curiosity made me approach the door. "No, seriously, girls," Vanessa was saying between loud laughs. "I live with my mother-in-law, and it is a nightmare. The old lady spends all day doing nothing, just wasting electricity and food. And why don't you kick her out?" One of her friends asked, "Oh, because Robert is very good, very noble. But I already told him either your mom cooperates or she leaves. Now she gives me half her pension every month. Something is something right." The laughter that followed pierced me like knives. She called me the old lady, said I spent all day doing nothing when I cleaned the entire house because she never lifted a finger. Bragged in front of her friends that she had forced me to pay her to live in my own house. "Damn mother-in-law," said another friend. "They are a burden, truthfully. My mom also has one and says the same. They just get in the way and spend." "Exactly," Vanessa replied. "But well, at least I have her controlled. I give her enough for her meds, and that is it. The rest I keep because honestly, I do work. I work putting up with her." They laughed. They all laughed at me while I was 10F'd away hiding like a thief in my own house, feeling how every word made me smaller, more insignificant, more invisible. When Robert arrived that night, I tried to talk to him. I told him what Vanessa had said, how I felt, how much it hurt to pay for a roof that was already mine. He did not even look up from his cell phone. Mom Vanessa works all day maintaining this house. It is normal she is stressed and vents with her friends. Stop spying on conversations that are not for you. Works all day. I exploded. And my own voice surprised me. Vanessa does not work. She spends all day watching TV while I clean. I cook what little they leave me. I wash enough. Robert interrupted me, and in his tone there was something new, something hard, almost cruel. "I am tired of your dramas. Vanessa is right. You are a burden, an emotional burden that does not stop complaining. You should be grateful we let you live here. Let me live here in the house with my name on the deeds. Grateful to my son for not kicking me into the street from my home." I did not answer. What could I say? My son was no longer my son. He was Vanessa's husband, the man she had molded during 3 years of constant manipulation. The boy I raised with love and sacrifice had disappeared, replaced by this stranger who saw me as a nuisance. That night, lying in my single bed in the service room, I did the math with what little I had left after giving money to Vanessa. I barely had enough for my heart pills. If I had any emergency, if I needed to go to the doctor, if my shoes broke, I would not have to pay for it. I was trapped a prisoner in my own house, paying for the privilege of being humiliated. And the worst was about to come. Because Vanessa had discovered that as long as I was alive, she would have to share the space, share Robert's attention, share the inheritance she coveted so much. And a woman like Vanessa does not know how to share. She only knows how to take consume, destroy. My pills were in the bathroom cabinet, the same ones that kept me alive, the same ones that cost $600 a month, and Vanessa had already seen them. The diagnosis arrived 6 months ago in the middle of August. Cardiac arrhythmia, said the cardiologist at General Hospital. Nothing fatal if controlled, but dangerous if ignored. My heart beat irregularly, sometimes very fast, sometimes skipping beats, as if forgetting its function. They explained it was common at my age, aggravated by years of hard work and the stress of becoming a widow. Dr. Miller, a serious man with thick glasses, handed me the prescription with a grave expression. Mrs. Sarah, this medication is vital. It is called Cardio Extended Release, 200 milligrams. You must take it exactly as indicated. 1 complete capsule every 24 hours. Never under any circumstances split or crush the pills. Understood. What happens if I do? I asked, without imagining that question would have such terrible answers. The capsules have a special coating that releases the medicine gradually throughout the day. If you break them all, the content is released at once. It can cause a dangerous drop in blood pressure, severe dizziness, or in your case, worsen the arrhythmia until causing cardiac arrest. I nodded, scared but confident. I would follow the instructions to the letter. I wanted to live. I still had things to do, even if my life had been reduced to that dark little room. And counting the days, hoping everything would improve. The prescription cost $600 per box, enough for a month. It was almost all of what I had left after paying Vanessa. But I had no choice. Without those pills, my heart would turn into a time bomb. When I arrived home that day with the pharmacy bag, Vanessa was in the kitchen eating imported cookies that cost $10 a pack. She saw me enter and her eyes immediately nailed onto the bag. "What did you buy?" she asked with that casual tone she used when she was calculating something. "My medicines. I have a heart problem." She got up and snatched the bag from my hands before I could react. She took out the box, read the price on the sticker. I saw how her expression changed, how her eyes narrowed doing mental numbers. $600, she said, whistling softly. Each month, that is $7, $200 a year, just on pills. I need them to live, I replied, extending my hand to recover my box. She held it out of my reach, studying it as if it were a valuable object. "Do you really need a whole pill every day? It seems like a lot. Surely half is enough. That way they last you 2 months instead of 1. You save $600. The doctor said I cannot split them. Doctors always exaggerate." She replied with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "They want to sell more medicines. It is a business. But we are not rich, Sarah. We have to be smart with money." She returned the box with reluctance. That night, I stored my pills in the bathroom cabinet, that old furniture with the stained mirror where I had always kept my things. I thought they would be safe there. How foolish I was. The first 3 months, everything went well. I took my pill every morning. My heart stabilized. The dizziness disappeared. Dr. Miller was satisfied with my progress. "I see you follow the indications to the letter, Mrs. Sarah. I like that." But Vanessa had not forgotten about those $600 monthly. I saw her looking at me sideways when I went to the bathroom in the mornings. I heard her make comments about how expensive it is to maintain old people, about how much old folks spend on medicines they probably do not even need. One day, 4 months after my diagnosis, I went to the market to buy vegetables. When I returned, I noticed something strange. The cabinet was slightly open, something I never left like that. I opened it and checked my pill bottle. Everything seemed normal. It was in its place with the correct amount of capsules. But that night, when I took my dose, something felt different. The capsule seemed smaller, lighter. I observed it under the light of the naked bulb in my room. It had a faint line in the center as if it had been opened and closed again. I attributed it to my imagination, to my growing paranoia. I took it. At 2:01 in the morning, I woke up with my heart racing, beating so hard, I felt the pulsations in my ears. The room was spinning. My head weighed like a stone. I tried to get up and almost fell. The walls moved, the floor tilted. I reached the bathroom on all fours, vomited, sat on the cold floor, shivering. I spent 2 hours there until the episode passed. In the morning, I felt exhausted, confused. I thought it had been something I ate, maybe the chicken left over from dinner, but it happened again and again and again. Every week I had an episode. My heart went wild in the middle of the night, or my pressure dropped suddenly during the day, and I had to sit down before fainting. The dizziness was constant. I started walking, sticking to the walls for fear of falling. Robert noticed nothing. He left early, arrived late, barely saw me. Vanessa, on the other hand, watched me with that expression I now recognize as satisfaction, like someone watching a plan unfold exactly as planned. "Do you feel okay, sweetie?" She would ask me with fake concern when she saw me pale, holding onto the doorframe. "You look bad. Could it be you are being dramatic again? You know how old people are always seeking attention." "I feel dizzy," I managed to say. "Oh, but if you do nothing all day, how are you going to get dizzy? Surely it is psychological. You should stop thinking so much about diseases. Psychological, as if the irregular beats of my heart were my invention, as if the cold sweat and tremors were theater to get attention." 3 weeks ago, things got worse. I went to the bathroom one morning, opened my pill bottle, and froze. The capsules were cut, all of them neatly divided in half with a clean cut as if someone had used a sharp knife or scissors. My heart skipped a beat that had nothing to do with arrhythmia. It had everything to do with fear. Vanessa entered the bathroom at that moment as if she had been waiting. She dried her hands on a towel with that casual expression. I knew so well. "Oh yes, I split them," she said, like someone commenting, "They wash the dishes. This way they last longer, sweetie, and we save money. Those pills cost $600 a month. We cannot afford those luxuries." The doctor said. I started, but my voice came out broken without strength. "The doctor does not pay the bills here." She interrupted me, and her tone hardened. "We do. Robert and I work hard for this money. You just spend it. So we are going to be smart. Half a pill is enough. That way they last 2 months. And before you start with your drama, I inform you that Robert already agrees." Robert agreed. My son had authorized them to alter my medication. The same son I breastfed, the one I cared for when he had pneumonia, at 7 years old, the one I waited up for every night of his adolescence. I wanted to protest. I wanted to scream at her that those pills kept me alive, that the doctor had been very clear about not splitting them. But then, Vanessa put a hand on my shoulder, with that pressure I had learned to recognize as a silent threat. "Besides, you know Robert and I are tight financially. Any help counts. Or do you prefer we ask you to leave because that option is also on the table, sweetie?" I remained mute, trapped between two horrors, taking altered medication that could kill me or ending up on the street without a roof or money, and my 67 years sick heart with no one else in the world. I took the half pill, and the next one, and the next one. My body began to collapse. The episodes intensified. I stopped being able to sleep fully for fear of not waking up. Every irregular beat reminded me I was playing Russian roulette with my own life, and Vanessa knew it. She saw it in my eyes every time I wobbled, every time I grabbed the furniture not to fall. It was not worry I saw there. It was anticipation, like someone waiting for the day to finally collect a long-awaited prize. She was not taking care of me. She was killing me slowly, calculatedly, with the precision of someone who knows exactly what she does, and I was letting her do it. The nights became my personal hell lying on that single bed in the service room. With the bulb off because Vanessa complained I wasted unnecessary light, I listened. I listened to everything through the thin walls of my own house, and what I heard destroyed me more than any physical pain. It was almost midnight when I heard them. Robert had just arrived from his double shift, exhausted as always. I heard his heavy steps in the hallway, the squeak of my old bedroom door opening. Then Vanessa's voice, soft and manipulative, like poison wrapped in honey. "My love, we have to talk about your mom." I remained motionless, holding my breath. My heart beat irregularly as it always did lately, but now for a different reason, for fear of what I was about to hear. "Not now, Vivi. I am dead tired." Robert replied with a hoarse voice. "It is important. Look, I know she is your mom and you love her, but we have to be realistic. She is dramatizing all this about her illness." Silence. A silence that seemed eternal to me. "What do you mean?" my son finally asked. "That she is exaggerating her symptoms to get attention. Old people do that. Love. My grandmother was the same. She invented pains so we would all be attentive to her. Your mom does the same. But the doctor said she has arrhythmia. Of course she has arrhythmia." Vanessa interrupted him, and I could perfectly imagine her expression, that mixture of feigned patience and condescension. But it is not as serious as she paints it. Have you seen how suddenly she gets dizzy when she wants us to pay attention to her, how she always feels bad precisely when we are having a moment alone? "I had not thought about that," Robert said, and in his voice I detected doubt. My son was doubting me. "Well, think about it. She has turned this house into a hospital where she is the eternal patient and we are the nurses. I cannot take it anymore, Robert. I arrived tired after shopping, cleaning, cooking for the three of us. And she is lying down complaining of dizziness. Dizziness from what? If she does absolutely nothing." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear through that wall and show my son the truth. That I cleaned what she dirtied, that I cooked my own food because she had forbidden me from using her kitchen at convenient times, that I got dizzy because her hands had altered my medication. But my voice did not come out. I stayed there paralyzed in the dark, listening to how Vanessa wove her web of lies around my son. Besides, she continued, and her voice became softer, more intimate. "I think she is faking so we do not leave. She knows if she is very sick, you will never dare to look for our own place. It is emotional manipulation, love, and it is working. I do not know Vivi. She is my mom and I am your wife," she replied, and now her tone had an edge. "Who is more important, the woman with whom you build your future, or the woman who already lived her life and now only wants to control you? Because that is what your mom does." "Robert, she controls you with guilt." The silence that followed lasted an eternity. I was trembling, sheets pressed against my chest, praying to God. My son said something, that he defended me, that he remembered who I really was. "You are right," Robert finally said, and those 3 words went through me like bullets. "She has been very demanding lately, always with complaints, always playing the victim." "Exactly," Vanessa said, triumphant. "And about her pills, did you see how dramatic she got when I told her to split them to save, as if $600 were nothing? Do you know how much we spend on the house every month? More than $3,000. And she complains about contributing $900. Yes, it is true. Pills are expensive. They are expensive because she insists on buying name brand. I told her there are generics that cost half, but no, she wants the expensive ones and then says she has no money. Please. That was a lie. Pure lie. Dr. Miller had explained to me that that specific medication had no generic version, that those $600 were the standard price. But Vanessa lied with such conviction that even I, who knew the truth, almost came to doubt. And what do you suggest? Robert asked. And in his voice there was no longer resistance, only fatigue and resignation. That we set clear limits, that we make it clear to her that this is our house now, that we make the decisions. If she does not like it, she can look for another place. She has her pension. She can rent a little room somewhere, as if I were trash you throw out when it gets in the way, as if 67 years of life, 40 of marriage, 30 of paying for this house meant nothing. I do not know if I can do that, Vivi. She is still my mother, love. And now Vanessa's voice became sweet again, seductive. I know you have a good heart. That is why I love you. But your kindness cannot turn into weakness. Your mom is taking advantage of you, of us. And if we do not put a stop to it, now this will never end. Do you want us to spend our whole lives locked up here, waiting for her to die so we can live in peace, waiting for me to die? She said it just like that, without beating around the bush, without shame. And Robert did not protest. He did not say, "Do not speak like that when about my mother." He said nothing. "Let me think about it." He finally murmured, "There is not much to think about love. Either your mom changes her attitude and stops making drama, or we will have to take difficult decisions for us for our future." After that silence then sounds I did not want to identify. My son and his wife in my bed in my room discussing my future as if I were a problem to solve, an obstacle to remove. I stayed awake all night, eyes open in the dark, feeling how every word I had heard buried itself deeper in my chest. My son, the child born from my body who suckled from my breast, who learned to walk, holding onto my hands, believed I was a manipulator, believed I exaggerated my illness, believed I deserved to be thrown into the street. The following nights were worse because now I could no longer not listen. Every nightly conversation between them was a new stab. Your mom left dishes in the sink again. I do not know why we give her a roof if she cannot even clean up after herself. Sarah ate some of the chicken I had saved for our lunch tomorrow. She is used to taking what is not hers. Did you see your mom went out without warning? Surely she went to gossip with the neighbors to cry to them about how badly we treat her. She is a busybody. And Robert just nodded, or worse, added his own complaints. You are right. She is becoming impossible. I noticed it too. Every day she is crankier. I think we are going to have to talk seriously with her. Every night I died a little more. Not from the heart, although that also failed. I died from the certainty that my son had chosen to lose me, that Vanessa had not had to try very hard to convince him that I was not worth it. One early morning after a particularly cruel conversation, where Vanessa suggested that maybe my convenient illness would disappear if they forced me to move, I had a panic attack. My heart accelerated to levels I had never experienced. The room walls spun. I felt I was drowning, that I was dying. I managed to drag myself to the hallway. I held onto the wall, trying to reach their door to ask for help. I fell to my knees halfway there. "Help," I whispered, but my voice did not come out. "Robert, help." Their bedroom door was closed, lights off, and me there lying on the floor of my own house, feeling my heartbeat, erratically praying my son would come out and see me. No one came out. No one heard. Or worse, they heard and decided to ignore me. I managed to drag myself back to my room. I spent the rest of the night sitting on the floor back against the wall, hoping every irregular beat was not the last. In the morning, when they saw me pale and trembling, Vanessa just said, "Again with your dramas, sweetie. You should already get an Oscar for these performances." And Robert laughed. My son laughed. There, I understood something I should have accepted months ago. I was completely alone in my own house, surrounded by my own blood. I was more alone than if I lived on the street. The question was no longer if Vanessa wanted me to disappear. The question was how much longer I could survive her plan. And the answer, with my split pills and my heart failing every night, was not much. It was a Thursday night when my body finally gave up. I had spent the whole day feeling strange, as if I were floating outside my own body. The dizziness was constant. My vision blurred every time I stood up. But I said nothing. I had already learned that complaining only brought mockery and accusations of being dramatic. It was 11 at night. Robert had already arrived from work and eaten dinner in silence, while Vanessa told him about her shopping day. I was in my little room, lying down, trying to calm my breathing. Every inhalation was an effort, as if I had a rock on my chest. Then it happened. My heart stopped. Not literally, but that is how it felt. 1 beat, 2, 3, and then nothing. A terrifying void that lasted eternities. When it beat again, it did so with such force that my body arched on the bed. Then another pause. Another void, another violent beat. I could not breathe. I could not scream. I could only bring my hand to my chest and feel how my heart rebelled against my body, beating without pattern, without rhythm, without control. I managed to fall out of bed. The thud against the floor echoed in the house. I heard hurried steps. My room door flew open and Robert appeared, eyes wide with panic. "Mom," he shouted, kneeling beside me. "What is wrong?" I could not answer. I only pointed to my chest, eyes full of tears that were not only from physical pain, but from the relief of seeing my son finally look at me with real concern. Vanessa appeared behind him in a satin robe and a face of annoyance. What happened now? "Call an ambulance," Robert ordered, holding my head. His voice trembled. "Quick, Vanessa!" I saw the hesitation in her eyes. For an eternal second, Vanessa looked directly at me, and I saw the naked truth in her expression. She was calculating if it was worth calling for help or if it would be better to let nature run its course. Vanessa Roberts shouted, and she blinked, breaking the spell. I'm going. Always so exaggerated," she murmured while taking out her cell phone. The following minutes were a blur of pain and terror. My heart continued its erratic dance, beating wildly and then stopping. I sweat cold. My lips went numb. Robert cried, holding my hand, repeating, "Hold on, Mom, hold on." The ambulance arrived in 15 minutes. That seemed like hours. The paramedics entered with their equipment. They put oxygen on me, monitored my heart. I heard technical words I did not understand. Severe arrhythmia, fibrillation, unstable. They loaded me onto the stretcher. Robert got in the ambulance with me, face decomposed. Vanessa stayed at the door of the house, arms crossed, watching me leave, with an expression I could not decipher, but which was not exactly concern. In the general hospital, they took me straight to the ER. Doctors and nurses moved around my stretcher like organized ants. They connected me to machines that beeped constantly. They injected me with something that made the world become blurry and distant. When I woke up, it was already early morning. I was in a hospital bed connected to a cardiac monitor emitting regular beeps. Robert was asleep in an uncomfortable chair next to my bed head resting on the mattress. My hand was between his. For a moment, just a moment, I saw my boy, the 10-year-old Robert who fell asleep next to my bed when I was sick with the flu, the teenager who took care of me when his father worked nights, my real son before Vanessa. A doctor entered with a tablet in her hands. It was Dr. Miller, the same one who had treated me since my diagnosis 6 months ago. Her expression was serious, worried, Mrs. Sarah. She said softly, waking Robert with the sound of her voice. I need to ask you some important questions. Robert sat up immediately, rubbing his eyes. Is my mom okay? She is stable now, but what happened last night was very grave. She had episodes of ventricular tachycardia. Her heart was completely out of control. If she had arrived 10 minutes later, she left the sentence unfinished. But we all understood the ending. But she has her medication, Robert said, confused. She takes it every day. That is precisely what worries me. Dr. Miller replied, looking directly at me. We did complete blood tests. Your medication levels in the blood are extremely irregular. You have very high peaks followed by dangerous drops. That should not happen with your extended release medication. My heart, although now stable thanks to intravenous drugs, skipped a beat. I knew what was coming. Mrs. Sarah. The doctor continued, pulling up a chair and sitting in front of me. Does anyone else have access to your medications? The question floated in the air like thick smoke. Robert looked at me, waiting for my answer. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. How do you tell your son that his wife is altering your medications? How do you pronounce those words without destroying what little remains of the family mom? Robert said, squeezing my hand. Answer. Did anyone touch your pills? I started with a broken voice. At that moment, Vanessa entered the room. She had her hair perfectly styled, makeup applied, dressed as if she were going to a meeting and not to visit her mother-in-law in the hospital. She was carrying a plastic bag. Good morning, she said with a bright smile. I brought Sarah's pill bottle. I thought the doctors would want to see it. Dr. Miller extended her hand. Yes, I was just about to ask for it. Thank you. Vanessa handed her the bottle. For a second, our gazes crossed, and I saw something in her eyes that froze my blood. Defiance. She was daring me to speak, sure that I would not dare. Dr. Miller opened the bottle and poured some capsules into her hand. Her expression changed immediately. Her frown deepened. Her lips tightened into a thin line. These pills are split, she said, and her voice had a sharp edge. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the machine seemed to stop making noise. Split? Robert asked, looking at the capsules in Dr. Miller's hand. I do not understand. Dr. Miller held up one of the half pills, showing it clearly. Someone cut them in half very neatly with something sharp. Her eyes moved between Vanessa and me. Who did this? Vanessa went rigid. I saw the color begin to leave her face, but her voice came out firm, almost offended. I know nothing about that. Sarah keeps her medicines in her bathroom. I do not even touch them. Mom. Robert turned to me. Did you split them? I shook my head. Dr. Miller stood up. Her presence filled the room. I need you to understand the gravity of this. Extended release pills must never be split. The special coding controls how the medicine is released over 24 hours. When that coding is broken, All the content is released at once." "And what does that mean?" Robert asked, although his voice was already trembling because he knew the answer would not be good. "It means that instead of receiving a stable dose all day, Mrs. Sarah received massive doses, followed by periods without medication. For someone with her heart condition, that is like playing Russian roulette. Every dose was a bet on whether her heart would hold out or not. The oxygen in the room seemed to evaporate." Robert let go of my hand and stared at the split pills in Dr. Miller's palm, as if they were evidence of a crime because they were. But that means my son started to say, and I saw his brain working, connecting the dots he had been ignoring for weeks. That means someone could have killed her. Dr. Miller nodded gravely. "What happened last night was not a normal arrhythmia episode. It was a direct reaction to misadministered medication. Mrs. Sarah was lucky her heart resisted. Another person with her condition would not be here anymore." Vanessa took a step back, bumping into the wall. Her hands trembled slightly, but her expression remained one of calculated indignation. "You cannot be insinuating that this is ridiculous. Sarah probably split them herself and now wants to blame me. She always does this. She always plays the victim. Mom." Robert turned to me with eyes shining with held-back tears. "Tell me the truth. Who split your pills?" I looked at my son, then at Vanessa. She returned my gaze with those cold, defiant eyes. In her expression, I clearly read the message. If you speak, you lose your son forever. He will believe me, not you. But something had changed inside me. Maybe it was the closeness of death. Maybe it was seeing Robert finally paying attention to me. Maybe it was simply that I had nothing left to lose. "Vanessa," I said, and my voice came out firmer than it had sounded in months. "Vanessa split them. 3 weeks ago. She told me that way they would last longer and we would save money." "Lie," Vanessa shouted, and her mask finally began to crack. "She is lying. Robert, your mother is inventing things to separate us." But Robert was not looking at her. He was looking at me, and in his eyes I saw something I had not seen in years: doubt about Vanessa. Finally, after so much time, my son was questioning his wife. "Is it true?" Robert asked, turning to Vanessa. "Did you split my mom's pills? I just wanted to help." Vanessa stuttered, and her voice lost all its previous security. "The pills are very expensive, Robert. $600 every month. I thought with half it would be enough, that we would save." "You thought," Robert replied. "Who gave you the right to think about my mother's health? Who told you to play with her medication?" "You," Vanessa replied, recovering some of her venom. "You said your mom was a financial burden. You said she spent too much. You said we needed to save. I was just doing what you wanted." The room fell silent again. Robert stood paralyzed with those words nailing into his conscience. I saw the exact moment my son understood his own complicity. "Doctor," Miller cleared her throat, breaking the moment. "I need to be very clear about something. What was done here was not an innocent mistake by someone who wanted to save money. It was criminal negligence that endangered my patient's life. It was not negligence," I said, surprising myself with the firmness of my voice. I told her the doctor had said I could not split the pills. I explained they were extended release. She knew. All eyes turned to Vanessa. Her face, which had started to pale, was now completely white like paper, just as I described in the office. "I did not know it was so serious," she murmured, but her voice lacked conviction. "Yes, you knew," I continued, and I felt something ancient and dormant inside me waking up. Fury. "I told you the same day you split them. I told you Dr. Miller was very specific, and you answered me that doctors exaggerate, that they just want to sell medicines. Sarah, I never, and it was not just that. I interrupted her, my voice gaining strength with every word. You said if I did not like it, I could leave, that option was on the table. You threatened to kick me into the street if I did not take the split pills. Robert collapsed into the chair, covering his face with his hands. My God, he whispered. What have we done? What she did, Dr. Miller corrected, pointing at Vanessa. And I need to ask you directly, Mrs. Vanessa. Did you know that altering this medication could kill Mrs. Sarah Vanessa? Opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes moved frantically between all of us, looking for an exit that did not exist. Finally, something in her broke. She is a burden, she shouted, and all her true nature surfaced like pus from an infected wound. She lives in our house, spends our money, occupies our space. I just wanted things to be easier for us. Easier, Robert repeated, lifting his head to look at her. You put my mother's life at risk so things would be easier for us. Vanessa insisted, approaching him. Everything I did was for us, Robert, so we could have our own life without your mother always being in the middle. Do you not understand? As long as she is there, we will never be free. Free. Robert's voice was barely a whisper, loaded with horror. Vanessa, you almost killed her. My mother almost died because you altered her medicines. You exaggerate. Vanessa replied, but her voice no longer had strength. She was not going to die from taking half a pill instead of a whole one. She was just being dramatic, as always. Dr. Miller intervened, her voice professional, but with an edge of steel. Mrs. Vanessa, you need to understand something. What you did constitutes a crime. It is endangering the life of another person. I am required by law to report this. The color left in Vanessa disappeared completely. Report. You cannot. I did nothing illegal. I just tried to save money. You altered prescribed medication knowing it was dangerous. Dr. Miller continued. Mrs. Sarah warned you specifically. You ignored those warnings and proceeded anyway. That is not negligence, ma'am. That is intentional. Robert Vanessa turned to my son with desperation. Tell them they are wrong. Tell them I would never do something like that. You know me. You know I love you, that I love our life together. But Robert was not looking at her. He was looking at me. And in his eyes, I saw something I had not seen in 3 years. Recognition. Finally, after so much time, my son was really seeing me. Mom, he said with a broken voice, forgive me. God, forgive me for not believing you, for not defending you, for letting this get so far. Tears began to roll down my cheeks. They were not tears of sadness, but of relief. My son had returned late, almost too late, but he had returned. Robert, you cannot believe her. Vanessa pleaded with a shrill voice. Your mother has always been manipulative. She is acting now, so you take her side. It is what she has always done. Shut up, Robert said, and his voice was cold as ice. Just shut up, Vanessa. I do not want to hear your voice anymore. Vanessa recoiled as if she had been slapped. For the first time since I met her, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. She had lost her control over Robert, and she knew it. Dr. Miller headed towards the door. I am going to call security and report this incident. Mrs. Vanessa, I suggest you get a lawyer. A lawyer, Vanessa's voice was barely a squeak. They cannot do this. Robert, do something. But my son only shook his head with tears falling down his face. I already did too much, Vanessa. Or rather, I did nothing when I should have, and that almost cost my mother her life. Vanessa looked at me then with pure hatred, without filters, without masks. "This is your fault," she hissed. "It is all your fault. If you had left when you should have, none of this would have happened." "No," I said, holding her gaze without blinking. "This is your fault, Vanessa, for being greedy, for being cruel, for believing you could take everything from me, including my life, and get away with it." Dr. Miller returned with 2 security guards. "Mrs. Vanessa, I need to ask you to leave the hospital now." Vanessa opened her mouth to protest, but the guards were already flanking her. With a last look of fury towards me, she let herself be escorted out of the room. Her expensive perfume was left floating in the air as evidence of her poisonous presence. When the door closed behind her, Robert collapsed. He knelt beside my bed, took my hand between his, and cried like I had not seen him cry since he was a child. "I am sorry, Mom," he sobbed. "I am so sorry. I was an idiot, a terrible son. I failed you in everything." I stroked his hair as I did when he had nightmares as a little boy. "You are here now," I said softly. "That is what matters." But deep in my heart, I knew this was not over. Vanessa had shown her true face. Yes. But a woman like her would not give up so easily, and I had to make sure she could never hurt anyone again. It was time to stop being the victim. It was time to fight. They kept me hospitalized 3 more days. 3 days of constant monitoring, of adjusting my medication, with controlled intravenous doses, of allowing my heart to relearn to beat with the correct rhythm. 3 days in which Robert did not leave my side sleeping in that uncomfortable chair, bringing me water, apologizing every hour as if words could erase 3 years of abandonment. I forgave him. Of course I forgave him. He was my son. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw the split pills. I heard the nightly conversations where he had agreed with every cruelty of Vanessa. A mother's love is unconditional, but trust once broken needs more than apologies to rebuild. The second day, while Robert had gone down to the cafeteria, I received an unexpected visit. The door opened and my cousin Linda entered with her leather briefcase and that elegant bearing that had always characterized her. Linda was 62 years old. She was a lawyer specializing in family law, and we had not seen each other in almost 2 years because Vanessa had found 1,000 excuses to prevent her from visiting. "Sarah," she said, and her voice broke seeing me connected to all those machines. She approached and hugged me carefully, not to disconnect any cables. I found out from a neighbor. I came as soon as I could. I cried in her arms. I cried everything I had not been able to cry in 3 years. All the accumulated pain, all the stored humiliation. Linda held me in silence, letting me empty all that anguish. When finally I calmed down, she sat in the chair Robert had been occupying and took a notebook out of her briefcase. Her expression had changed from family concern to professional concentration. "Tell me everything," she said, "from the beginning and do not skip anything." I told her every detail. The gradual invasion of my house, the loss of my bedroom, the money they forced me to pay, the constant humiliations, and finally the split pills and the veiled threat to kick me out if I did not obey. Linda wrote fast, her sharp eyes shining with something I recognized as professional fury. When I finished, she closed her notebook with a dry snap. "Sarah, what Vanessa did is not only morally reprehensible, it is legally actionable," she said, leaning forward. "We are talking about financial abuse, psychological abuse, and most gravely endangering your life by altering your medication. That is a criminal offense. I do not want to get Robert in trouble, I said immediately. Robert is an adult who made decisions, Linda replied firmly, and now he has to face the consequences. But I am not talking about him. I'm talking about you, about protecting you, about ensuring this never happens again. She took more papers out of her briefcase. First, that house is yours. It has your name on the deed. No one, absolutely no one, can force you to share it or pay to live in it. Second, the money they took from you monthly constitutes theft. You have the right to recover it. Third, we need a restraining order against Vanessa, a restraining order, so she cannot approach you or your property. She already demonstrated she represents a real danger to your life, Sarah. Dr. Miller already made the official report. That is solid evidence. The idea terrified me and liberated me at the same time. And Robert, if I kick Vanessa out of the house, does my son also have to leave? Linda sighed. That is a decision Robert will have to take. But you need to set clear limits. No more invasions, no more abuse. Your house, your rules. If he wants to stay, it will be under your terms, not hers. I am afraid, I admitted. Afraid of being alone. Robert is all I have left. Being alone is better than being accompanied by someone who wants to destroy you, said Linda, taking my hand. And you are not alone. You have me. You have neighbors who love you. You have a life that deserves to be lived with dignity. At that moment, Robert returned with a coffee in his hand. He stopped seeing Linda, and something in his expression told me he knew exactly why she was there. Cousin Linda. He greeted with a tense voice. Robert, she replied with professional coldness. I was just talking to Sarah about her legal options. My son palled. Mom, please do not do this. I already understood. I know I was wrong. Vanessa and I will separate. She will leave. I will stay. And everything will be like before. It cannot be like before, I said softly. Robert, I almost died. And you agreed with everything she did. You said I was a burden, that I dramatized, that I needed to grow up. He collapsed into a chair, head between his hands. I know, and I hate myself for that. But I was blind. Mom Vanessa manipulated me, made me believe things that were not true. Now I see it clearly. And what guarantees you will not be blinded again? Linda asked. What guarantees that in a few months, when your mother forgives you and lowers her guard, resentment won't return for having to take care of her, that another Vanessa won't appear? I am not like that, Robert protested. I love my mother. Love is not enough when trust has been broken, Linda replied. Sarah needs legal protection, needs to ensure her house, her money and her health are protected from everyone, even from you. The silence that followed was dense and painful. I saw my son processing Linda's words, understanding finally the magnitude of the damage caused. What do you need me to do, Mom? He finally asked with a small voice. Tell me what you need and I will do it. I looked at Linda. She nodded, giving me permission to speak. I need Vanessa out of my house immediately with a restraining order. I need them to return all the money they took from me these 3 years. And I paused because this next part hurt more than anything. I need you to look for your own place, too. Robert lifted his head abruptly, eyes full of tears. Are you kicking me out? I'm not kicking you out, I said, and my own voice trembled. I am letting you go. You are 42 years old, Robert. You need your own space, your own life, and I need to recover mine. I need to be Sarah again, not just your mother, not just someone's mother-in-law, me, but I want to take care of you then take care of me by visiting me, calling me, being present in my life without living my life. I said with firmness I did not know I had. Taking care of me does not mean appropriating my space. It means respecting it. Linda took documents out of her briefcase. They discharged me on Monday morning. Linda picked me up from the hospital because Robert had to be at work, and honestly, I needed someone by my side who did not carry the weight of 3 years of guilt. My cousin drove in silence towards my house. Her leather briefcase in the back seat full of documents that would change everything. As we approached the suburbs, I felt my heart race. But this time, not from arrhythmia, it was fear mixed with something more powerful, determination. During 3 days in that hospital connected to machines that kept me alive, I had had time to think, to remember who I was before becoming the shadow hiding in the service room. "Are you ready?" Linda asked when she parked in front of my house. I looked at the modest facade of my home, the walls Henry and I painted one April Sunday, 28 years ago, the living room window where I used to sit and embroider while he watched football. My house, not Vanessa's house, mine. "Yes," I replied. "I am ready." We had planned everything carefully. Linda had summoned Vanessa and Robert at 11 in the morning with the excuse of resolving family matters in a civilized manner. She had also invited 2 witnesses. My neighbor Lucy, who had witnessed several of Vanessa's humiliations, and Mr. Frank, the gentleman from the corner store, who had known me for 30 years. When we entered, Vanessa was sitting on the sofa. She herself had bought painting her nails a deep red. She did not even look up when we entered. Robert was standing by the window, shoulders tense in miserable expression. "You arrived," Vanessa said with a flat voice, still not looking at me. "I thought you would stay longer in the hospital, dramatizing." Linda stepped forward before I could answer. "Mrs. Vanessa, I am Linda Ross, attorney specializing in family law. I am here representing my cousin Sarah in legal matters related to this property and recent events." Now Vanessa looked up. Her expression hardened seeing Linda's briefcase. "Lawyer, please. Sarah, always so dramatic. You almost die and now you walk around with lawyers. How fast, you almost killed me," I said, and my voice sounded stronger than it had in years. "There is a difference." Vanessa let out a fake laugh. "Still with that, I already told you I just wanted to save money. It was not a big deal." Linda opened her briefcase and took out a thick folder. "On the contrary, Mrs. Vanessa, it was a very big deal. So much so that I have here the official medical report from Dr. Miller where she declares that altering my cousin's medication put her life in real and immediate danger. I also have her statement from the hospital where you admitted splitting the pills." The color began to drain from Vanessa's face. I admitted nothing. They misunderstood me. There are witnesses." Linda continued relentlessly. "Dr. Miller, 2 nurses, and Robert. Everyone heard your confession." Vanessa turned to my son. "Robert, say something. Tell them they are exaggerating." But Robert only shook his head, eyes fixed on the floor. "I cannot, Vivi. I cannot keep lying for you." Linda placed documents on the coffee table. "Besides the crime of endangering another person's life, we have evidence of financial abuse. For 3 years, you forced Mrs. Sarah to pay you $900 monthly from her pension under threat of kicking her out of her own house. She had to cooperate. Vanessa protested, but her voice had lost all its security. She lived here, used services. This house has Sarah's name on the deed." Linda interrupted, showing the documents. "She is the only legal owner. You had no right to charge her absolutely anything. In fact, my cousin has the right to recover every dollar you took, $900 monthly for 36 months. That is $32,400. The silence that followed was absolute. Vanessa had gone completely pale. "I do not have that money, I know," said Linda with a cold smile. "That is why we brought this." She took out more papers. "Complete inventory of all items you bought and brought to this house. Clothes, furniture, decoration. Everything adds up to approximately $15,000. Vanessa jumped to her feet. "You cannot take my things. They are things bought with stolen money," Linda replied. "Money you extorted from my cousin. Legally, all that belongs to Sarah as restitution." At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Linda had coordinated perfectly. Lucy and Mr. Frank entered, followed by a sheriff's deputy Linda had contacted. "Good morning," the deputy greeted, showing his badge. "Deputy Martinez. I am here to witness the service of a restraining order." Vanessa recoiled as if slapped. "Restraining order? This is madness." The deputy handed her the papers. "Mrs. Vanessa Smith. Hereby you are prohibited from approaching within 100 yards of Mrs. Sarah Roberts, her home, or any property in her name. You have 24 hours to vacate the property located at number," Vanessa shouted. And finally her mask broke completely. "This is my house. I have lived here 3 years. You cannot kick me out just like that." "Yes, we can," I said, and my voice was firm as a rock. "Because this was never your house, Vanessa. It was mine. It always was." She looked at me with pure hate. You useless old woman. After everything I did for you, I gave you company. I redesigned this horrible house. I tried to modernize you, and this is how you pay me. Company," I repeated, feeling how fury finally found its voice. "You took my bedroom. You locked me in the service room. You threw away the rocking chair my father had made for my wedding. You humiliated me in front of your friends. You stole my money. And you almost killed me altering my medicines. That is what you call doing something for me. Everything I did was so this house would be worth something," Vanessa shouted. "It was full of old junk of dead people's things. I improved it." "You did not improve it," intervened Lucy, my neighbor, with a trembling but brave voice. "You stripped it. I saw how you treated Sarah. I heard you call her useless old woman from my window. I saw how you threw her things in the trash." Mr. Frank nodded. I was also a witness. "Sarah came to my store crying, buying the minimum because you took her money. Once she told me she did not even have enough for a pound of sugar because you had forced her to pay an invented electric bill." Vanessa turned to Robert, desperate. "Are you going to allow this? Are you going to let them humiliate me like this? I am your wife." Robert finally looked up. His eyes were red, but his voice was firm. "Not anymore, Vanessa. I spoke with a lawyer yesterday. I filed for divorce this morning." The world stopped. Vanessa wobbled, holding on to the back of the sofa. "What, I married you because I thought you were good." Robert continued, and I saw tears rolling down his cheeks. "Because I thought you loved me. But you only wanted this house. You only wanted to get rid of my mother to keep her property. That is not true." No, Linda took out her phone. "Hook out her because we have this." She pressed play. From the phone speakers came Vanessa's voice, clear as crystal. "The sooner the old lady goes, the sooner the house will be ours. Robert is too noble to kick her out, but I am not. I am going to make life so miserable for her that she herself decides to leave. And if not well at her age and with that sick heart, nature can help a little." It was a recording of a phone call. Vanessa talking to someone, probably her sister. I do not know how Linda got it, but there it was. The irrefutable evidence of her intentions. Vanessa collapsed on the sofa, completely defeated. That was taken out of context. There is no context that justifies wishing death on someone, said the deputy. Ma'am, I suggest you cooperate with the voluntary eviction. Otherwise, we will proceed legally, and this will get much more complicated for you. I looked at that woman who had turned my life into a hell for 3 years. That woman who had slept in my bed, eaten at my table, breathed my air, all while planning my disappearance. And I felt nothing. No fury, no sadness, just relief that it was finally over. How you have 24 hours, I said calmly. You can take your clothes and personal items. Everything else stays as payment for what you stole from me. And if ever you approach me or my house again, I will make sure the criminal lawsuit for attempted homicide goes forward. Understood. Vanessa looked at me with eyes full of hate. You are going to regret this. You are going to die alone in this miserable house. No one is going to love you. No one is going to visit you. I prefer to die alone and in peace, I replied, than to live accompanied by someone who wants to kill me. The deputy escorted Vanessa out of the living room to pack her things. Robert approached me with a decomposed face. Mama, you also have to leave, I said softly but firmly. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. You need your own space and I need to recover mine. Are you kicking me out? I am freeing you, both of us. I took his hand. I love you, Robert, but I cannot live with you after everything that happened. We need time. We need to rebuild our relationship from zero without either living under the other's roof. My son cried in my arms like the child he once was. And I cried too, not out of sadness, but liberation, because finally, after 3 years of being invisible in my own house, I had recovered my voice. And this time, no one would take it from me again. Vanessa left my house 24 hours later, with 3 suitcases full of clothes and an expression of hate that could have burned everything in its path. I watched her from my living room window, my living room. While she put her things in a taxi, she did not take the expensive furniture she had bought, nor the abstract paintings, nor the Italian espresso machine. All that stayed is part of the payment of the $47,000 she owed me. Robert helped her load the suitcases. I saw how she tried to hug him, how he pulled away stiffly. I heard because I left the window open on purpose when she begged him one last time. Robert, please. All this is a misunderstanding. We can start over somewhere else. Far from your mother. Just the 2 of us. There is no 2 of us, Vanessa. My son replied with a voice that sounded 10 years older. There never really was right. You just wanted the house. I love you. No, you love what I could give you. There is a difference. He closed the taxi door. The lawyer will contact you for the divorce papers. When the taxi drove away, I felt a weight of 3 years lift from my shoulders. Linda, who had been by my side throughout the process, put an arm around my shoulders. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I replied. And it was true. But Vanessa's story did not end with that taxi driving away down the street. Oh no, justice has curious ways of completing its cycles. And Vanessa was about to discover that when you build your life on lies and manipulation, the entire building can collapse in a matter of days. It was Lucy, my neighbor, who told me the first thing. 3 days after the eviction, she came to visit me with sweet bread and coffee like in the old times, before Vanessa forbade me from having visitors. Sarah, you are not going to believe what I found out, she said with eyes shining with fresh gossip. Remember Vanessa's sister, Daisy, the one who always came in that brand new car? I nodded. Daisy had visited the house several times, always dressed in expensive clothes, always bragging about her perfect life. Well, it turns out Vanessa owed her money. Lots of money. Daisy lent her $5,000 a year ago for Vanessa to invest in a business. Obviously, there was no business. Vanessa spent it on clothes and outings. Lucy took a sip of her coffee. And now Daisy is furious because she found out everything that happened. She demands her money back immediately. And does Vanessa have that money? What do you think Lucy laughed? The crazy woman spent everything on appearances. She does not even have enough for rent on a room, but that was not all. Robert arrived that afternoon with information that completed the puzzle of who Vanessa Smith really was. "Mom," my son said, sitting on the sofa with a somber expression. "I hired a private investigator. I needed to know who I had really married." He took out a folder and opened it on the table. There were photographs, documents, records. Vanessa has debts with 4 different banks. Credit cards she maxed out buying things she could never pay. The total is $12,000. All cards are in her name. That is why I never knew. $12,000. A fortune for someone who did not work and who had been living off my money and Robert's for 3 years. There is more. My son continued, turning to another page. Before meeting me, Vanessa was married. Was twice. I froze. Twice. Her first husband left her when he discovered she had emptied his bank account. The second one kicked her out of his house when he realized she had forged his signature on documents to sell a piece of land he owned. She almost went to jail for that. I looked at my son, seeing the pain in his eyes, discovering the woman he loved was actually a professional con artist, a predator who identified vulnerable men, widowers, single men with properties, and used them until squeezing them dry. Robert, she chose you for something specific too, right? I asked softly. He nodded with tears in his eyes because she knew you had this house. She investigated me before approaching. She knew you were a widow, that the house was paid off, that sooner or later I would inherit it. Everything was calculated from the beginning. Linda's phone rang that same afternoon. She answered and her expression changed to professional satisfaction. "Interesting," she said when she hung up. She looked at me with a smile. It was Deputy Martinez. Apparently, when word spread of the restraining order and accusations against Vanessa, other people started talking. What people remember, Vanessa's friend Cindy, the one who came to eat with those other women, Linda consulted her notes. Well, Cindy had lent $2,000 to Vanessa 6 months ago, money she obviously never saw back. Now she is filing a lawsuit, and the other friends, one she owes $1,000, another she owes $1,500. Apparently, Vanessa borrowed from all her acquaintances with the same story, that you were very sick, that she needed money for your medicines and treatments, that she would pay it back as soon as she inherited the house. I was left speechless. Vanessa had used my real illness to scam her own friends. She had commercialized my suffering. There is more. Linda continued, almost enjoying delivering every piece of information. The gym Vanessa went to. She owes 4 months of membership. The nail salon, 3 months. The boutique where she bought clothes. She has pending bills for $3,000. Vanessa had lived like a queen, but with borrowed money stolen and never paid. And now, without the house she coveted so much, without the husband who maintained her lies, without the roof that gave her respectability, her whole house of cards was collapsing. A week later, Robert came with the final news. "Mom, they found Vanessa. We're living in a rented room in Skid Row, the cheapest place she could find. $150 a week, shared bathroom." He paused. Her sister Daisy filed a formal lawsuit. The friends too. The bank started collection processes, and the boutique where she owed $3,000 filed fraud charges because she signed promissory notes she never fulfilled. And she is desperate. She called me yesterday crying, begging me to drop the divorce suit. She says if we stay married, we can sell this house and pay all her debts, that we can start over. And what did you tell her? That this house was never mine to sell, that it is yours, and that if she tries to approach you or this property, I will personally ensure she goes to jail. My son looked at me with a mixture of pain and pride. I told her I learned from the best from my mother, who finally found her voice and her strength. 2 weeks later, Linda arrived with the final document. She placed it on the table with a smile of satisfaction. The criminal lawsuit for endangering your life proceeded. The judge considered the evidence, the medical report, the altered pills, the recording of the phone call, and issued a sentence. What kind of sentence? 2 years in prison, suspended under probation. That means she will not go to jail immediately, but if she commits any other crime in the next 2 years, she will serve the full sentence. Besides, she has to pay a fine of $5,000 to the state and the $30,400 she stole from you. She does not have that money. I said, I know. That is why the judge ordered the seizure of her assets. The problem is, Vanessa has no assets. The only thing of value she owned was the expensive clothes she bought with your money, and that is already here. Linda leaned back on the sofa. Basically, Vanessa Smith went from living in her own house in the suburbs with a hard-working husband and all comforts to living in a cheap room with debts of over $50,000 criminal record and no way to pay them. All because she wanted more than what corresponded to her, I murmured. All because she believed she could destroy someone without consequences, corrected Linda. A month after Vanessa left, Mr. Frank told me he had seen her. She was at the flea market, Sarah selling used clothes on the ground, that expensive clothes she always wore. Now she is selling for $5 or $10 a piece, trying to gather money to pay even a fraction of what she owes. The image impacted me. Vanessa with her expensive heels and blonde dyed hair already showing dark roots, sitting on the market floor on a mat selling the same dresses she had bought with my stolen money. The same dresses she strutted in while calling me useless old woman. Do you know what is most ironic? Continued Mr. Frank. People at the market already know who she is. Word already spread of what she did to you. No one buys from her. They just pass by, look at her, and keep going. That was true poetic justice. It was not just that Vanessa had lost the house, the husband, the comfortable life. It was that she had lost something more valuable in a community like ours. Her reputation in our neighborhood, where everyone knows everyone, where stories pass from neighbor to neighbor. Vanessa Smith had become synonymous with betrayal and cruelty. The ladies who formerly admired her now crossed the street not to greet her. The friends who formerly lunched with her now sued her. The merchants who formerly sold to her on credit now demanded payment in advance. Robert kept his word. He moved 2 months later to a small but own apartment across town. He came to visit me every Sunday, brought sweet bread, helped me with minor repairs in the house. Our relationship was rebuilding slowly, honestly. Do you know what I learned from all this, Mom? He told me one Sunday while we drank coffee in the living room that true love is not imposed. It is respected. Vanessa isolated me from you, made me believe loving you meant choosing only her. But that was not love. It was control. And now you understand the difference, I said, squeezing his hand. And now I understand I almost lost my mother for a woman who never really loved me, who only saw in me a means to an end. The last I heard of Vanessa was 6 months after the eviction, Linda called me with the news. Vanessa left the country. Apparently, she took what little she had left and went to Mexico. She left all her debts unpaid, all lawsuits unresolved. There is an arrest warrant if she returns. Is she gone forever? She will probably look for another vulnerable man in another place. People like her do not change Sarah. They just change victims. I hung up the phone and looked around my living room. My mahogany rocking chair, rescued from the backyard and restored by a neighborhood carpenter, was back in its place by the window. My lace curtains that I had stored in a box hung again in the windows. Henry's photographs and mine were back on the wall. My house had returned to being my house. I sat in my rocking chair and rocked gently, feeling the familiar creak of old wood. I thought of Vanessa fleeing to another country carrying her debts and destroyed reputation like invisible suitcases she could never let go. She had wanted to take everything from me, my house, my dignity, my life. But in the end, the one who lost everything was her. Because when you build your existence on the destruction of others, eventually, there is nothing solid left to stand on. That is true poetic justice. I did not need to destroy Vanessa. She destroyed herself. I only had to find the courage to defend myself, to say enough, to remember my life had value. And now sitting in my rocking chair in my living room in my house, drinking coffee in my enamel pot, I had rescued from the trash, I understood something fundamental. The sweetest revenge is not destroying who hurt you. It is surviving them. It is recovering. It is living well while they carry the consequences of their own actions. Vanessa left with empty hands, fleeing her debts and shame. I stayed with everything that really mattered: my home, my dignity, and the certainty that never again would I let anyone turn me into a prisoner of my own life. 8 months have passed since Vanessa left my house with her 3 suitcases and her hate. 8 months since I recovered my life. And while I sit in my restored mahogany rocking chair with the afternoon sun entering through clean windows, I can barely recognize the woman I was a year ago. The house has life again. Not the oppressive silence of when Vanessa controlled every space, but the peaceful silence of a home that breathes calm. The walls she painted minimalist gray are now a soft yellow. I chose myself. The lace curtains dance with the breeze. The aroma of cinnamon coffee and sweet bread fills the kitchen every morning without anyone telling me I am using too much gas or sugar. My health improved surprisingly fast once I returned to taking my medication correctly. Dr. Miller monitors me every month and always says the same thing. Sarah, your heart is responding wonderfully. It seems removing toxic stress was the best medicine. She is right. My heart beats now with a constant, reliable rhythm. The dizziness disappeared. The cold night sweat left. I sleep in my recovered bedroom in a new bed I bought myself with my money without having to ask anyone for permission. Robert comes every Sunday without fail. We drink coffee, chat, sometimes watch a movie. But now there is something different in our relationship. Respect. He no longer treats me like an obligation or a burden. He treats me like what I am, his mother, but also an independent woman with her own life. You know what, Mom? He told me 2 weeks ago while we ate stew I had prepared. I never told you directly, but I am proud of you, of how you defended yourself, of how you did not allow Vanessa to destroy you. She almost succeeded. I admitted almost. But the key word is almost. Robert took my hand. You taught me it is never too late to recover your voice. I was 42 years old and let someone manipulate me. You were 67 and found the strength to fight. That inspires me. My son is in therapy now. He is working on understanding how he allowed Vanessa to manipulate him, how he lost sight of his own values. It is a slow, painful process, but necessary, and I am proud of him for facing it. Linda became more than my lawyer cousin. She became my close friend, my confidant. She comes to visit me every week, sometimes just to drink tea and chat. Other times, she brings cases of other older women who are living situations similar to mine. Sarah, she told me a month ago, would you mind talking to a lady I know? Her name is Rachel. Her daughter-in-law treats her very badly, but she is afraid to say something because she does not want to lose her son. That is how something I never imagined began. I became a sort of informal counselor for older women suffering family abuse. Rachel came to my house. We drank coffee and I told her my story. She cried the whole time, saying, "It is exactly what happens to me." I explained what Linda had taught me. That being afraid is normal, but love should not hurt. That children can love their mothers without allowing their partners to mistreat them. That it is never too late to set limits. 3 weeks later, Rachel called me. She had confronted her daughter-in-law with legal support. She had recovered the money they had taken from her. Her voice trembled with emotion. "Sarah, I did it. I found my voice like you found yours. Since then, other women have come. Grace, 70 years old, whose son-in-law treated her like a servant. Hope, 65, whose daughter had isolated her from her friends. Each with her story, but all with the same pain, being invisible in their own lives. And I listen to them, share my story, give them Linda's number. I accompany them to discover they are not alone. That abuse is not love, that they deserve dignity regardless of their age. Mr. Frank told me at the market they call me Doni Sarah, the one who fought back. At first, it made me uncomfortable, but now I see it as an honor. If my story can inspire a single woman not to stay silent, then almost dying was worth it. The rocking chair where I am sitting is my symbol of victory. I rescued it, restored. It put it back in its place just as I rescued myself. The carpenter who repaired it told me something beautiful. "Mrs. Sarah, this wood is 40 years old. It is splintered, mistreated. But look how strong it remains, like you." On the wall next to the window hangs a photograph took 2 weeks ago. It is of me sitting in this rocking chair with a cup of coffee in my hand, smiling. A real smile, not forced. My son framed it with a plaque that says, "Sarah Roberts, Survivor Warrior. I use my full pension now. Every dollar is mine to spend as I decide." I bought new plants for the patio, fixed the roof leaks, bought myself a terracotta-colored dress. Not blue, because that color tires me now, which makes me feel pretty. They are small things, but they are mine. Decided by me, paid by me, enjoyed by me. Lucy, my neighbor, comes almost every afternoon. We drink coffee, chat, laugh. She tells me neighborhood gossip, harmless, funny things, and I tell her about the women I've been helping. Sometimes we invite other neighbors. My living room, which Vanessa had turned into a cold and minimalist museum, is now full of voices, laughter life. Do you know what is the most beautiful thing about all this? Sarah Lucy told me yesterday that you recovered your light. When Vanessa was here, it was as if you had turned off. Now you shine again. Shine. What a beautiful word, because that is how I feel. Luminous, alive, present. My heart health is stable, but I remain careful. I take my pills whole without splitting every morning at the same time. I go to my medical appointments religiously, walk 30 minutes every afternoon in the park, eat well, sleep well, live well. Dr. Miller told me at my last appointment, "Sarah, your tests are perfect. Your heart is working better than a year ago." Do you know why? Because you are no longer carrying the weight of 3 people. You only carry yours. She is right. During 3 years, I carried the weight of keeping the peace, of not causing problems, of being invisible, not to bother. That weight almost killed me. Now I only carry my own responsibilities, my own joys, my own decisions. And it turns out, when you only carry yours, life is much lighter. 3 weeks ago, I received a letter. It was from Vanessa. Linda forwarded it to me because it had arrived at her office. Vanessa cannot contact me directly because of the restraining order. The letter came from Mexico. Linda asked me if I wanted to read it. I thought about it a lot. Finally, I said yes, not because I owed Vanessa anything, but because I needed to close that chapter completely. The letter was short, written by hand on cheap paper. It said, "Sarah, I am in Mexico working cleaning houses to pay my debts. I live in a room smaller than the service room where I put you. I eat once a day. I have nothing. I write this not to ask for forgiveness. I know I do not deserve it, but to tell you that you were right. I built my life trying to take theirs from others, and now I have nothing left. Hope you are happy in your house. At least one of us made it. V." I read the letter once, then I folded it carefully and put it in an envelope I kept at the bottom of a drawer. I did not feel triumph reading it. I did not feel satisfaction for her suffering. I only felt closure, like when you finish a sad book and close it knowing you never have to read it again. "Are you going to answer?" Linda asked. "No," I said. "My answer is the life I am living now. That is the only answer she needs." Robert is dating someone new. He introduced her to me a month ago. Her name is Patricia. She is 45 years old. She's an elementary school teacher. She is kind but not fake, polite but not manipulative. And most importantly, she treated me with respect from the first moment. "Mrs. Sarah," she told me when I met her, "Robert told me everything that happened. I want you to know I would never ever try to replace you or take your place. If this relationship prospers, I would love to be your friend, not your competition." I cried when she told me that. I cried because I finally understood how it should be. 2 adult women respecting each other without threats, without territories to defend. Patricia. I told her, "I do not need you to promise me anything. I just need you to be good to my son. And from what I see, you already are." This morning, I woke up early as always. I prepared my cinnamon coffee calmly without haste. I sat in my rocking chair and watched the sunrise through the window. The sky painted itself orange and pink, and I thought about all the mornings I lost feeling miserable, invisible, worthless. I will not recover those mornings. Those 3 years are gone. But I have these every sunrise where I can breathe deep in my own house, where I can decide how to use my day, where I can be myself without asking permission. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror after washing my face. I saw wrinkles. 68 years leave a mark. I saw silver hair I no longer bother to dye. I saw tired but clear eyes. And for the first time in years, I liked what I saw. I did not see a useless old woman, as Vanessa called me. I did not see a burden as she made me feel. I saw Sarah Roberts' widow mother, survivor, warrior. I saw a woman who almost lost everything but refused to lose the most important thing, herself. Now, while the sun sets and the house fills with that golden afternoon light, I tuck myself in my rocking chair with a blanket over my legs and a book in my hands. It is a book about brave women who changed history. Linda gave it to me with a dedication for Sarah, who changed her own history. I hear the familiar sound of the key in the door. It is Robert arriving for our Sunday dinner. He brings Chinese food, my favorite, and his genuine smile. "Hi, Mom," he says, kissing my forehead. "How was your week?" "Good," I reply. "Very good." And it is true. It was good. Like all my weeks now, because I learned something every woman should know regardless of her age. Your life belongs to you. Your space belongs to you. Your dignity belongs to you. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take them from you. It took me 67 years and almost dying to learn it. But I learned it. And now I dedicate my days to ensuring other women do not take so long to discover it. Because true wealth is not in the houses you own or the money you keep. It is in the capacity to look at yourself in the mirror and recognize the woman you see. It is in being able to breathe deep without fear in your own home. It is in knowing you survived, that you recovered, that you found your voice when everyone expected you to stay silent. That is me now. Sarah Roberts, 68 years old survivor, warrior free. And this time, no one will take that from me. Never again. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you it is never too late to recover your life and your dignity, leave me your comment. Tell me, where are you listening from? Have you lived something similar or know someone who needs to hear these words? Your story matters as much as mine. And together, all voices that were once silenced, we can create a choir impossible to ignore. Like if you believe respect has no age, and subscribe to keep sharing stories of life, of struggle, and of women who refuse to disappear, because we all deserve to live with dignity. We all deserve to be seen, and we all deserve a second opportunity to shine. Remember, true freedom begins the day you decide your life is worth more than the peace of others.